Okay, guys, good morning. It is Monday, October 18th, 2021. Chugging our way through this December contract, almost getting through October here. And let's get started here with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. We'll jump up to our ultra-high time frames here. Our quarterly and our monthly probably don't have anything new to really talk about here. Everything is just looking the same here. When we get to our weekly, we do have the previous weekly candle that did close on Friday. And just taking a look at the picture, nothing really has changed. We had the nice bullish divergence off the weekly, the candle that closed on October 1st and the candle that closed October 8th. Current candle, really can't say too much about it from a divergent perspective. Everything looks kind of normal here. So really nothing else new here on the weekly. Just looking like we have a really nice bullish divergence off lows and don't really have any type of bearishness off the highs that we're looking at right now. So still looking pretty strong on our weekly. And then down to our daily here, this is where last week we talked about needing to get above that 44.72 in the most ideal sense. Remember, we had the bullish divergence back from October 1st and then October 12th, which essentially was agreeing with what we saw back on the weekly chart here. And then we talked about if we couldn't get above 44.72, which was the high that we made back on September 27th, we could start to get an argument here for some bearishness on the RVI. So we never made it up to 72, although we are getting fairly close. But the RVI is significantly higher here. So still the potential argument for bearishness off the high on the daily here, since we could never get above that 72, and that's off the candle that closed from Friday. But as you can see here, as this RVI just continues to push higher, if it's just a straight line here and we do continue to push to higher highs, we could potentially ignore what we're seeing here, but we'll just kind of mark that for now. And hopefully the bulls this morning will get us just above 72, so we won't have this potential bearish case that could be made. So for now, we'll leave it up there. Outside of that, still everything looks pretty strong here. And just looking at previous daily range here, just from that perspective, if we do break below the previous daily low, which happens to be 44.26 quarter here, notice we'll have a bearish engulfing candle, which is not a great case for the bulls either. So we'll just have to kind of monitor this and see how it looks by the end of the day. And let's go down to let me just kind of reiterate that the weekly did not really have any type of bearish argument. But the daily does have the case for that now. Going to the 4-hour here, I went ahead and threw the fib for the whole push down from the all-time high to the low from October 1st. And notice where we turned here last week on Friday. We came all the way up to, first of all, the 27% extension of that first leg that we measured. So let me just kind of cover that. We had this push from, again, the October 1st low to the high we made here, looks right around October 7th. And then on that pullback, we talked about the fact that it pulled back and bounced essentially, well, it did bounce to the tick off the 61.8 retracement of that leg. And then and then after that bounce, did come down and probe by a few points there, and then held and continued to push higher. And we measured that leg. Turns out the 27 extension is 44.65, maybe 65 quarter. And then the high from, Friday's high looks like right around 67. So pushing right into that 27% extension. And then, like we talked about a few weeks ago, a lot of times if the 61.8 does not hold and in this case the bears in this downward pushing leg right here, for the bears, if they held that 75, that was in many cases kind of the last stand there. So It came right to the 27 extension of the leg that we were looking at down here, and then the 75% retracement of the whole leg down. And you can see they both come up here 65, 70, and then right in between is where the market turned. And then in the Sunday Globex, it looks like they tried to push, but then there was this failure here. So on the 4-hour chart, what I'm looking at here is just a little subsequent bar bearish indication off that high that did lead to a little bit of this pullback so far. And we don't have a bullish argument off the current candle low. So we're pulling back here. The 4-hour at least is not showing a bullish argument just yet on this pullback. So we'll see if the shorter time frames have anything to add there. But what we're gonna have to do now is look at this whole push from the low that we made and got this really nice MTF bullish signal back on October 1st all the way up to the current high now, which again is, let me get the actual number, 69.50 here. So if I could get this up right around that area, and that gives us this retracement scheme down to 89, 64.50, and 39.50 here. Not necessarily lining up with anything too sexy, except for the 50%, which brings us right back to the swing highs we made back on October 12th, right around that 64 area. So I do like the fact that that's kind of lining up there. Outside of that, we have the local leg itself, which is this push higher. So we have essentially the major low there at 17.25. If I could get that on there, 17.25 up to the high, which I believe we said was what, 69.50. And that retracement scheme kind of bringing us right into this previous resistance from October 7th. So we'll have to watch that, and let's go ahead and jump down to our shorter time frames and see if we're getting agreement. Definitely have the bearish case off the highs. Oh, and this is actually really great to bring up here. It's, again, I don't think this is coincidental. Remember that last week we talked about measured moves, right? And we talked about how we had this push up here, and it was whatever, what, 150 point push, I think, total. 4270, 4420, that's 150 points. And we talked about how if you look at some of these previous moves, they're all generally around this 150 points. And so we had a 150 point push, we got the retracement down to the 61.8, got the bounce out, and we put this on here, and I said to you guys, I'm not necessarily a huge thing for me, but I'm going to be watching this and expecting that we would potentially get another 150 point push from the low over here. And what do you know? And I didn't even have this planned for this morning. I just came to this chart, forgot we even had this on here. Look at where we turned in the market here. Literally the exact same measured move that we made back here. All right, so hey, I don't know. It must be some type of voodoo magic going on here. But not only was it an exact measured move from the previous leg, but it was also, remember, we talked about a 27% extension of this current leg that we pulled back and bounced from. And then it was a 75% retracement of the whole leg down. You can even see we talked about this last week, the 70 and the 75 being right over here. So the fact that the market turned literally almost probably to the tick right there is not too surprising from the perspective that we're looking at here. So looking up there, we did get a bearish divergence that I guess you could say agrees with what you see here with the subsequent bars on the 4-hour. And then maybe even this daily argument up top here. So we got that, and currently on the pullback, remember we said that from the 4-hour perspective, off the current low over here around 44.36 to 37, we don't necessarily have any type of bullish argument on the 4-hour just yet. On the 60-minute, I think we could jump in here and take a look, looking to where we were. Back at this low, technically we haven't hit it yet on our VI. It's very close. For all intents and purposes, probably is meeting with this low on RVI. So you could probably say that This push up from this previous low on October 13th all the way up to where we are right about now. It is flat on RVI, but big push up. So there is that argument there, and you guys know that we do look at this. We do think it's valid, but I would love to see something a little bit more in the local area, and we actually did get that. We got this push down to a lower low on price, and go ahead and redraw that. But we do have a very slightly higher low on the RVI there. So it is slight, but a nice local divergence right there, which I do like. So we're going to have to kind of watch this now, because even though the 4-hour isn't showing it, if the hourly and everything else is, that could mean we do get some type of nice little impulse out of this level. So we'll have to see on the shorter time frame. So right now, got a little bit of a bullish argument from the low of the overnight session, but we also have the bearish argument from the overnight highs, and we get agreement when we jump up to the 4-hour and the daily from there. So we'll have to kind of watch that. Also keep in mind, as we pull back here, we do have this previous swing high again back from October 7th, and these swing highs from essentially October 11th as well. So coming back and finding support in these general areas, even for just a very minor bounce and then a continuation, not out of the realm of possibility. Let's go ahead and take a look at the intermediate time frames and see what they're saying right around that low that we just talked about, the overnight low. Go to our 30-minute here, and yep, getting some nice bullish arguments right now on the 30-minute, and we do have closed candles, so there are official bullish signals off the overnight low right now on the 30-minute. And on the 10-minute, well, you don't see it marked here, but overall you can see from this structure in the market right here, this lower lows, and technically from this low back here, this higher low. So I guess there could be an argument, but it's not as pretty as I would like. Like, I would have much rather seen, say, from the previous local swing low to the next swing low, something like a push up, and we don't see that. And we don't have anything right here. So maybe if we saw, see from this candle down to here, it pushed lower, it would have been nice to see the RVI, say, push higher, but we don't see it. So we don't really have the cleanest bullish divergence down here, but I think there are people that could argue that we do have it from this previous swing. So we'll keep that in mind. So to be honest with you, not the strongest confluence of bullish signals from the current low, right? So if we saw maybe a 4-hour, maybe even some type of daily indication, we saw everything from the 60-minute down showing a nice clean divergence here, give me a lot more faith that we are going to get some type of larger bounce out of the overnight low, and maybe even a push to break the overnight high and continue pushing. Because we don't have that, I do think that we have a little bit of an argument that we could push a little bit lower here, right, and test some of the lower lows before continuing higher. Remember, we have a stronger bearish case off the overnight high than we do a bullish case off the overnight low. So that's kind of what we're going to be using this morning to help orient ourselves. And we'll jump now into our member section and start looking at some of our eye levels and maybe some better ideas for trades. So for those watching on YouTube, have a great rest of your day. Maybe we'll see you in the room here. We'd love to have you join us. So until then, have a great rest of your day, guys.